Gosh, this is really hard. Oh my
Yeah, I mean, okay.
God. Okay. Oh wow.
I think college is for sure worth it. People I've met have been great. Classes, fun. Food is better than people say. Everything about it's really great. I'd do it. Maybe not again. I'd do it once.
Well, I think for me, it was definitely kind of the only way that I saw to achieve, whatever my goals are in life, that's not figured out yet. I think especially from the family that I come from, my grandfather on my dad's side was one of the first people in Somalia to get a bachelor's degree because he got the opportunity to study outside of the country. And so I came from that kind of family tradition that education, and especially a college education, was the best way to progress in life and also to help others from where you come from. And so for me, it was kind of the only option.
I think college is worth it, but I don't think it's universal, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, school isn't for everyone. There's thousands of people, hundreds, thousands of people who have done it without college. And at moments, I'm like, girl, what am I doing here? But I think college is worth it. I think if you're really dedicated and you really want to get into a field that you need education for and a degree for, then it's worth it, especially what you do with that education. So I think it is worth it. It's expensive, but factor that into where you go to school, what you're gonna study, what your salary is gonna look like, and the college experience is definitely unmatchable. But yeah, I think college is worth it.
I think so. Personally, I feel the connections or the friends that I make are completely worth it, even though college may be on the more expensive side. But kind of, I guess, the whole experience that I've had so far in this past year has been a really good time, so highly recommend.
I think it might be worth it for different reasons than you first entered, at least for me. Obviously, there's like the really cool stuff of like, yay, job opportunities, way more job opportunities. And I think that's something that's like really cool about this place is just being able to explore different jobs and hearing about jobs I didn't know existed, finding out about organizations I didn't know existed. But also just like, I think it's a really necessary transition point in your life of just like learning to be away from your parents, finding yourself as like a person, but also being in like an environment that's full of people who are in the same spot as you is really cool. The people I've met here are incredible, genuinely like some of the best people. And so I think for that reason, especially with the people, but also just like learning more in general, like, in every sense of the word of learning, of like academically learning way more stuff that actually interests me as opposed to like high school, but also just like learning how to live with people, having roommates, all of that. Yeah, I think college is invaluable.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's like a monetary value, obviously. I think regardless whether the skills you learn in college actually increase your productivity in the workforce or something, like there's statistical evidence that it will potentially raise your salary later on. But I think from like a humanistic standpoint, there's a way of thinking that you learn in college, exposure to ideas that you wouldn't otherwise get, people you meet that make it all worth it, at least for me. But I also understand that some people wouldn't want to or feel that it wasn't necessary. That being said, I don't think I would have traded going to college for anything.
I go back and forth on this one. I do think it's worth it though. Not just for like the academics, but I think you can like learn a lot about yourself, learn a lot about like social interactions. I feel like so much of what you learn in college is not just the classes you take, but it's like what you learn from your friends and your peers, and just like learning how to like transition into adulthood. So I think overall it is worth it.
It really depends on the person that you are and what your goals and aspirations are and what you think life should be made of. I think for me personally, there's some days where I'm like, maybe it's not. But in the long run, I think in the capitalist society that we live in, I think that education is really the way to like relieve like socioeconomic hindrances and really push yourself forward into the best of your abilities. College is really difficult, so sometimes it's not really the best for a lot of people. But I think that if you have the opportunity to do it, if you have the motivation and the drive to do it, I say go for it. But if it's not something that you want to do, then I don't think that that's like the end of the world. I think there's many other trajectories that you can go in life that are definitely like worthwhile. I think it's really where your priorities lie, and if education's not for you, then college doesn't have to be for you, and I don't think that you should be embarrassed about it.
I think college is worth it. I mean, yes, tuition's a lot and stuff, but like, they do really talk about how, you know, college is the good days. It's kind of like how you meet a lot of people here, a lot of important people, especially because we're at Yale, and it's like a good time for us to really like think about, you know, what we want to do after college. That like kind of 4 years kind of helps you prepare for the real world, I think. So I think college is worth it, even though it does cost a lot.
I think college is worth it because this has been probably the happiest I've been in a very long time. And the people here are just like nothing else. I don't think I mean, of course, like when you go into the workplace, your company environments are a little more specialized. You kind of have the same, like, people of the same culture, like work culture or personality, whereas like at college, you're kind of mixing with a bunch of people with so many different interests that you wouldn't even think of. And it's kind of cool getting exposed to that and being able to make those connections that I don't really think that you would get anywhere else. In terms of like the actual price tag of college, in terms of like the value of the time that you spend in college is definitely worth it. But the price tag that's associated with college, especially in the United States, I'm not entirely sure if it's worth it because it's so much cheaper everywhere else in the world and you kind of get the same experience for less. But I definitely say it's worth it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I think it depends on who you are and what you want out of life. I think in the society that we live in, college is a really great way to advance yourself socioeconomically. Like, it can catapult you into like a totally different like earning potential than the one of your parents. So I think like in that way, it's like super worthwhile. But I also think that there's other like trades that you can make a lot of money in or just make like livable wages in that don't require you to go to college. But I think that the majority of them right now require a college education. So for that reason, it's worth it. I also think personally, I have just loved college because I feel like it's really allowed me to settle into adulthood. I think going straight from high school where you have like zero responsibility really and you're living with your parents to adulthood where you're fully responsible for yourself could seem daunting, especially considering like all the things I've learned in college. So I think it's like a really good transition period as well. If you can afford it. I think the other thing that's important to recognize is that college is very expensive. Obviously, there are different like levels. Is Yale worth it? Is a whole nother question that I don't know if I'll get into right now. I don't know if I should get into it. No, yeah. I love Yale, but it's expensive, and you don't have to pay $80,000 for a college education for it to be worthwhile.
Really going intense with it. Wait, make sure he serves it. That's how you'll know.